Washington Pod presents Earl Nightingale.
I want to share with you a letter written by a young lady, a senior at McLean High School. She writes, I was raised as a virtually free American in Watts, a section of Los Angeles that has been called a slum by sightseers and a depressed area by sociologists. As a child, I never noticed. We had an overabundance of unsightly tenements, smelly pool rooms, dirty streets, and flying garbage, yet I never felt underprivileged, depressed, or deprived. To outsiders, my environment might have appeared to be miserable, but in all honesty, I must say that I was not aware of this. I can be considered fortunate because poverty never destroyed or even damaged my ideas or standards. Sociologists would probably label me as the privileged poor, and indeed I am privileged. But poor, I am not. Henry Ward Beecher once said, no man can judge whether he is rich or poor by turning to his ledger. It is the heart that makes men rich. He is rich according to what he is, not what he has. We moved out of Watts, and 6 years later I began to hear rumors of what I, a person from a slum, was supposed to be. For the first time in my life I realized that Watts had been pictured in many people's minds as a 20th century Tobacco Road. This was after the riots. This was when mass media began to degrade not only Watts, but all lower middle-class communities as well. After the riots, scores of projects were started. Everyone thought he knew the answer. They thought the answer was money. The money began to pour in, trying to force upper middle-class standards on a lower middle-class society. The front-page headlines told of how the people didn't have the money to buy the necessities of life, yet they had existed, survived, and lived for many years. As time passed, the people began to believe the stories themselves. They no longer wanted to live happily as they had in the past, not luxuriously, but contentedly. Now they saw themselves as others saw them. They felt cheated and left out. The more money that poured in, the more money was needed to satisfy this new thirst. Now father can go to work and feel like a slave for 8 hours a day, and sis can't go to school because her clothes aren't good enough. You can bet that when they sit down to meatloaf, they think of others eating steak. All the bills in the legislature can't stop poverty. All the money in the treasury can't buy poverty. People cannot advance as a group until they have the desire to do so. In order for the poor to come out of poverty, they must take the first step themselves. As a teenager, and as a former citizen of Watts, I feel that now is the time to inform the younger generation that they can change the present conditions when they accept the fact that no one owes them anything. That now is the time to take the first step out of the impoverished area. As Booker T. Washington phrased it, cast down your buckets where you are. I am, according to books, magazines, and movies, an underprivileged, deprived, depressed person with supposedly no hope for the future. But I stand as a symbol. You can be what you want to be, not disregarding your background, but quite often because of it. This high school senior ended her letter by writing, but I stand as a symbol. You can be what you want to be, not disregarding your background, but quite often because of it. I hope this girl's letter gets wide dissemination. Thank you.